Did Maru not try his hardest against Serral in the season finals? Is there too much StarCraft II right now? And how do fish drown? All of these questions will be answered in today's episode of StarCraft Today.
StarCraft Today.
Your favorite StarCraft news show. Crank recently interviewed Maru for the Team Envy YouTube channel, and in that interview Maru stated that he didn't really mind too much losing to Serral in the group stage of the season finals, and that he actually was saving build orders for later on in the tournament. Of course, Maru went on to win that tournament without having to face Serral a second time. Serral got knocked out by Rogue. This week was the rematch, as in the King of Battle finals. They finally did meet for that big clash that everyone has been waiting for, a best of 7 in the finals, and Maru managed to take out Serral 4-2 in a very dominant performance, showing his power in the TVZ matchup and kind of showing that what he mentioned in the earlier, just a couple of days before, was true. That if he plays his best and that if he uses his best builds, that he can definitely take out Serral, not only in the early game, but also in the later stages of the game. If we take a look at the King of Battle group stage and we compare it to the season final group stage, we actually see that the King of Battle is a lot more stacked. Even though the season final tends to be a flagship event for the EPT circuit, it isn't actually the strongest event, and perhaps not even an event that most people look forward to the most, because King of Battle and TSL 8 next, these tournaments with these long global qualifiers just have a way more stacked player pool. In season finals, of course, you have some weaker regions that get to send representation. A lot of people have been wondering if that is the correct way to go about it. Perhaps it might be better to have these weaker regions first face off in like a round of 32 to see if they're allowed to go to the season finals, so that at least you have a more stacked group stage. Because right now, it feels like the group stage in the season finals, the games just aren't that close. There's a lot of walkovers or very one-sided matches between the weaker regions and the top players, and it's simply not that fun to watch. Compared to King of Battles, for example, where the group stage was an absolute blast. You had surprises, upsets, victories that people expected, victories that people didn't expect. It feels like a real competition. For example, if you take a group like Group Cynical Death, which is basically Group D, you have Serral, Raynor, Beyond, and Classic. And truly anyone in that group can win. This time it did end up being Serral and Raynor, which might be what people expect as well. But I mean, Beyond has a very good chance of advancing out there. Classic can definitely make an upset, and he played some fantastic games against Serral. So there is something there. Personally, I enjoyed King of Battles a lot as well. It's nice to see some of the guys continuously put on big performances. Think of Clem. Raynor once again making it to a round of 8 is also fantastic to see, of course. Hero Marine taking out Clem in the round of 8. Perhaps not that big of a surprise anymore, as these guys have been trading a lot of Best of X series in the past few months, or perhaps even the year and a half. But it's still very cool to see for the for the German Terran, the German Terran who once used to be young, to be capable of taking out Clem. Of course, in the end, Serral versus Maru in the final, and I believe a 2.5 hour series where Serral did not quite manage to win, and Maru took his second big tournament victory in less than a week time. All of that kind of leads into the next topic, where it might be the case that there's a little bit too much StarCraft II going on right now. At the end of the year, there's always a bunch of tournaments that come out. You have your TSLs, you have your next King of Battles, but also the season finals, of course, during all of that WTL going on. And on top of that, in Korea right now, they're also running a super tournament. It feels like we're absolutely getting an insane amount of StarCraft, and you can turn on Twitch or YouTube anytime and watch high-level StarCraft, but it does feel like the value of these big tournaments is depreciating a little bit. It feels like it's not as important to have a win anymore. Maru kind of got lucky in a way that he managed to win 2 tournaments in a row. If he would have lost to Serral in the finals, his big reign of the world of winning the DreamHack season finals would have only lasted, 6-7 days, which doesn't make for very good storylines. It's very difficult to hype up these players or to hype up whether they change very much if there's a big tournament every 3 days. We also had Next starting the day after King of Battles finished, and TSL starting on a Friday. It just feels like there's so much StarCraft going on right now that it's almost impossible to keep track of who's the current world champion, and I don't think that is necessarily a very good thing. With all that being said, of course, we still should have a look at next, as it really is a fantastic tournament with brilliant players. 4 groups of 16 of the best players in the world. This time no Hero Marine, but Lambo coming out of Europe. It's fun to see him make it in as well. He's going to be playing in Group B in a couple of days. Group A has already been played, from which we saw 2 Protoss players advance. Protoss have been struggling a little bit, getting out of group stages lately, so it's nice to see some Protoss representation in that round of A bracket. Group C, D and B will be played later in the week. I'm curious to see what these results will give. We've also had the first half of the Super Tournament bracket being played. Cure versus Beyond, a reverse sweep in favor of the GSL champion. Beyond starting with a 2-0 lead, but could not quite close it out. We know that in the past, Beyond in longer series has been struggling, especially in the GSL, where he says his hand starts hurting. This doesn't happen at home, but this GSL setup does make it so that his hand hurts. And perhaps that was kind of playing a part there, or maybe Cure just had the better mindset going into that series and was more prepared for a longer series. So the GSL champ is still in the Super Tournament. The current Super Tournament champion also is still in after almost losing to Ragnarok in a very exciting series. Trap, that is, of course, managed to advance into the round of 8. Did in the interview complain a little bit about the lack of build orders that Protoss currently had in PvZ, and said it was kind of easy for the Zerg to be ready for everything because there's just no way to truly surprise a Zerg. And after Dark won against Creator 3-2, with also a very close series, Dark kind of came back onto that and said, actually, I do hope that they end up buffing Protoss, like Trap said, because then I will also switch the toss, or I will also switch the toss, and any type of buff the toss will be a buff to me. So a little bit of banter going on in this interview. It's been a fun tournament to watch. High-level games, good games, and of course Rogue also taking out Keen 3-0, but I mean, that's kind of to be expected. I don't think a lot of people expected Keen to take a map, let alone or the series, let alone a map. So the rest of that will continue tomorrow on the Thursday, and I'm looking forward to see if Trap can win another Super Tournament. This week's game of the week, Serral versus Maru on Blackburn. Game 5 in their series has to be the best game that I've seen in 7 days, because last week's game of the week also was very good. Serral and Maru going at it and really showing some fireworks in this game from start to finish. Pretty action-packed, some slower points in the middle of the game, but then during the end phase of the game, completely open again, going back and forth in army supplies, in trades, both players ending with a sub-100 supply, I think on 20 to 25 workers, both of them, and trying to make it work with very small armies. Really fun game to watch. CVT in general has been really good lately, and seeing these two guys go at it for such a long time on Blackburn was an absolute treat. It's 100% recommended, guys. This week's ESL Open Cups were an absolute blast to watch, and they were quite special as well, as something happened that I don't think quite happened before. Dark on the Sunday, losing a single map to win the ESL Open Cup in Asia. Then in Europe, Showtime managed to beat out MaxPax to take that one. And then back in America, Dark decided to play another time, and this time he didn't lose a single map. 3-0ing Zest in the semis, 3-0ing Clem in the finals. This means that over 2 cups, Dark only lost a single map. Now, I could be wrong, but I can't recall a single time where someone won the double and only lost a single map in the entire process. Insanely dominant performance out of Dark. Super cool to see that he's also playing these ESL Open Cups every now and again. And big congratulations to him, because that is definitely not an easy feat. This week's clip of the week is of a Protoss player who tries to control Terran units, and let's just say it doesn't end up going so well.
You wouldn't.
Oh my god, they stopped moving.
Yeah. I believe you.
They just stopped moving. I don't understand why.
1 second.
Absolutely fantastic clip. What a hilarious streamer. Twitch.tv/Harstem. Now, looking into next week, we have the TSL 8 coming up, more next groups as well. I'll be playing personally on Friday against Maru in the TSL 8. So if you're into that, then be sure to check that out. Loads of other players, they're a lot better than me, will also be playing in TSL 8 and in the NetEase eSports X tournament, also known as Next. So be sure to check all of that out as well. Links will be in the description. Now, before we go, let's answer the final question. Can fish drown? Most fish breed when water moves across their gills. But if the gills are damaged, or water cannot move across them, the fish can suffocate. They don't technically drown, because they don't inhale the water. But they do die from a lack of oxygen. Fishing equipment such as some type of hooks can damage the gills. Directly from Google into your living room. Thanks everyone so much for watching this episode of StarCraft Today. I hope you had a great time. I sure did. If you also did, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to call Hamster absolutely fantastic in the comments. Bye bye.